going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Deca Debrief. Today on the podcast, we've got TSPage.
My bad. Did I just destroy your intro?
No, it doesn't matter. It's just, we're just at the intro part, and then thank you, our patrons. You guys keep this podcast going. We don't have any. First thing I really want to touch on is how do you feel about being a partnered content creator? What are some major benefits that you see as like finally becoming a partnered creator?
Well, I think it takes a little bit of prefacing to actually talk about how that happened because it was very scuffed, the whole process. I literally just PM'd Akalos, like, I don't remember. It was probably towards the start of Montmeg, very beginning of Month of the Mad God. Yeah, somewhere in that time period. And I was basically just like, hey, I would like to be partnered. And this was after I'd only made 2 videos returning, literally 2, and got no response. Reached out again like a week later. He responded, was like, yeah, actually I watch your videos and I would be down. And so that's literally how that happened, and it was kind of scuffed. But it kind of inspired him to actually kind of reinvigorate it and bring it back to life. And that's kind of where we are today. There's not a whole lot of like additional content we get to make because of it necessarily, but for events and stuff like that, we get keys every event. So every week of Montmeg, we've been getting like spoon-fed a bunch of keys that we can use for whatever we see fit. And then we can obviously do the Realm Gold giveaways, as well as, what is it? 4,000, we get 4,000 gold ourselves. So I don't have to spend money because I'm a broke college student, and that's really nice.
You can roll those, you remember those really old videos you used to do where you'd just roll the boxes?
Yeah.
Like 7,000 gold.
I was joking with Akalos about that. I was like, yeah, you give me gold and then I spend money, turn that into content, and I just promote gambling on behalf of Deca. I still am baffled how those videos did so well. But I mean, I used to watch CSGO loot box openings all the time, so I can kind of understand it.
People just like anything that's random chance. That's why people like those like quest chest opening videos that, because I remember Seb had one that like really popped off. That was something like, 140 epic quest chests or something.
Yeah. I think I actually made a thumbnail for someone. It was Albinum or whatever. And it was their first video in like years for the game. And it was like 400 chests or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And I remember I made the thumbnail for it, and it was the most viewed video. The most viewed thumbnail I'd ever made was on someone else's channel because it got like 100,000 views, and none of my videos have ever touched that.
Yeah, even for Realm, that's fucking huge. I mean,
unless you're Yin Yarn, then 100,000 is chump change.
I guess. I mean, yeah, for Yin and Haze, there's like very few that like hit that mark though. Like even then, how many did he? 1, 2, 3. He had 3 videos that hit over like 100K. And then for Haze, there's like a handful, I think. But he's a legend. Like you kind of can't step up to like him in terms of like, I don't know, I guess Realm fame. And then now just moving on to Sonic, because fuck Realm, honestly.
Him switching to Sonic was actually a really cool pivot. And I don't know if it was a conversation with you. I think it was a conversation with Yin Yarn that was published somewhere. No, it was Sebchuv. It was on Sebchuv's podcast where he's talking about how it blew up out of nowhere. And then he was like, oh, okay, well, I just kind of got to roll with it. And I think that kind of speaks to how YouTube is as a whole, though. And with my content that I've been making it recently, as much as I hate to be one of those guys, I've kind of shifted my content to fit the algorithm better. Better pacing, better music, all of that stuff just makes videos perform better. And I'm a firm believer that as long as it gets some exposure, good videos will do well, because YouTube wants good videos to do well.
It's just all about titling, especially. Titling is so fucking important nowadays, where like just one of these down here, like how I accidentally made my greatest character ever, is like literally how every single Ludwig video or short is titled on YouTube. It's so hard to get a click otherwise, unless you say like, I accidentally killed my girlfriend yesterday, but not how you thought. Like
yeah. And that's kind of why, like with titles like that one, I was really happy with it, because how I made my greatest character, to an extent, that I really do believe it was my greatest character, because I had never done a PPE that was that accomplished before, and I thought the editing was over the top, but in a good way. But yeah, with the whole YouTube algorithm, it's very interesting. I am obsessed with thumbnails to a bad degree. Like, I know that I have some bad ones in my recent uploads, but like, I have probably cycled like 6 different thumbnails on almost all of my videos to figure out which ones work best. And it is pretty definitive whenever you can see like a jump in click-through rate, which is just how frequently people click on the video when they see it. Like, switching from one thumbnail to another, just watching a video perform instantly better.
Have you seen you've seen Vars Virum's thumbnails, right?
Yeah, I've yoinked some techniques directly off of him.
Oh, same. I've had people commission me for thumbnails, and I just copy his fucking style because it's. I mean, it works. It's so eye catching. It's just, you know, you get the colors, you get something big and heavy and in your face, and then just.
If I'm not mistaken, in quite a few of my recent thumbnails, I've literally been using Bebis Kai, which I'm pretty sure is a font you put me on.
Which one?
Bebis Kai.
Oh, Baby's. Yeah, that's the one we use for all our Deca Debrief stuff. I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan.
Exactly. You told me to use that font, and I have had it in the catalog ever since.
Yeah, I'll tell Goodman because Goodman's the one that recommended it to me, and he started the whole chain.
That's so funny. The double outline, the gradient overlay with the whatever.
Yep.
Yep.
He's a very talented individual, and he's gotten me on a lot of different techniques. He's the one who did a majority of the vector work for your profile picture, and I actually just cleaned it up. Like, he did a majority of that, and he did all our Deca Debrief stuff, which I think is like some of the best logo work I've ever seen in my life. Like, he did such a good job on everything, and he deserves every bit of like attention he can get. Go shout out his YouTube anytime you can because his videos are so funny.
I mean, if you put me in contact with him, I would be like love to work with someone like that for something. I don't know what yet, but if I was to work with someone like that, they would be getting a massive shout out because I did not know that there's another person who'd helped on the logo, and I am very pleased with it. So it'd be awesome to actually get in contact with them.
Damn, I feel kind of shitty that I didn't make that like very clear. Next time he's like on Discord, because I know he's been like super out of Discord recently. He takes like these breaks from the internet, which I think is like really good for him. But next time he's back, I'll let him know that you're interested in like collabing on stuff. He does have some videos I think he did with Calcium. Yeah, I think Calcium. He has a collab with Yin as well.
Calcium's so talented.
Yeah, dude, I miss Calcium so much.
He's trying to come back, but I think he's just got so busy that his schedule has to be more spaced out, which I'm starting to feel it a little bit. Like, I'm trying to apply for jobs, I'm trying to do all this. I just started college again, make sure I'm passing classes, networking, building portfolio, all of that stuff. It's hard to make content with a full schedule, you know?
And then it kind of has to take priority because God knows not even Hayes and Sebchoof could make it like profitable enough where it could take place of like your current job without feeling like you're making less.
Yeah, and that's a big thing for me. That's why I want to make summoning style videos, and I mentioned this to you before the podcast. Is if I'm going to make realm content going forward, at least a couple times a year, I want to make projects that legitimately transcend realm viewership, if that makes sense. Because like, why the wizard is stupid or why the knight is stupid. Those are videos that anyone who has ever played realm ever could understand and enjoy. My goal with some of the videos that I'm working on now, in particular with the Moonlight Village, is a video that I believe anyone who enjoys and understands video games at a basic level could click on, get hooked into, and sit and watch for. It's probably going to be around a 30-40 minute script at this point.
It's honestly like massive because I don't think anybody's ever had a realm video that has had wider appeal than like what it is, you know?
Yeah,
because like there are people who play other, like if you play League of Legends for a fucking living and then you click on like why the wizard is stupid, you're not gonna really understand a thing about it unless you've played the game at least once.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's actually a really tough part of the script because I've got like 3 or 4 pages and it's just like, wow, I can actually start talking about the content of the video that I want to talk about and not just explaining the mechanics of the game and the dungeon itself. To explain like 2 pages of my script is explaining the importance of like why people would want to spend time with the dungeon, and then another like page and a half is explaining the basic mechanics of realm and the history of realm, you know. So it's like making it accessible, like because I don't know how much you geek about the YouTube algorithm, but like it has to do well within your community for it to ever reach outside. And if it's not well paced and doesn't land well with people within your community, it'll never reach that outside audience, you know? So it has to be engaging enough to where everyone within the Realm community can enjoy it thoroughly, but also hold the attention of new players or people who've never touched Realm and could legitimately just binge watch it. And that's what I think Summoning Salt, Virtual, I don't know if you've heard of Virtual, the Trackmania guy, both incredible storytellers, and I think incredible storytelling can transcend the game itself.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'd love to see it happen though, because it hasn't really happened yet.
No, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen a Realm video that's meant for a broader audience, unless it's a channel that already has that broadened audience. Like, you know, what's his name? John Strifeface? Jack? No, what is it? I feel bad that I forget his name. The guy who basically made a video about Realm.
Josh Strifeface.
Josh Strifeface, yeah. He made a video, and it reached an audience of MMO fans, which is a much bigger audience. Yeah. But like, it wasn't exactly for Realm, you know. That was not a video for Realm, and his audience is not Realm players. And I'm just super excited to make a video that could land with Realm players, but could legitimately expand and reach just other sections of YouTube as well.
Do you think that video had like any impact on the fan base of this game? Think any long-lasting people ever joined because of it?
I would imagine that a few long-lasting people tried it. I would say with every situation like that, there's probably a few people that decide to try it and then get hooked. I'm sure, as everyone listening to this podcast knows, if this is your game, it is your game, and you're not leaving.
Yeah.
Like, it just strikes a chord with certain players, and if it can find an audience, if it can find those new players that it strikes the right chord with, it will be like those players will stay. So I gotta imagine with, I don't know, probably a few 100,000 new players getting their eyes on the game, and probably at least a couple thousand trying it, yeah. A few had to have gotten hooked, you know, like for sure, at least a few.
There's like a minor bump here. I'm actually like looking at the Steam charts right now, which, you know, isn't completely indicative, but, you know, it's kind of like the main place that people play the game, I would assume, just because it's like the most accessible for like newer players to join. And it seems that there's like a minor bump here, but it's really not that much. Like it just spiked up by another like 100, but that's
I would imagine Month of the Mad God is probably the explanation for that bump.
Well, it was around March when it... Yeah, it was around March when it happened.
There was someone else who made a big video on Realm. It starts with a D.
I know who you're talking about. The one where like I accidentally made like... I accidentally got addicted to this game or whatever it's called. Fucking Dragoon. How I beat the most addictive game. And then he released like a second one right after. I continued the most addicting game. Yeah, these ones popped off. I remember when these came about. That was really funny.
I wonder, 6 months ago, that could explain the one in March, right? That was 600,000 views or 500,000 views.
This one was February of this year. Wow.
Yeah, that video was hype. I saw that. I was like, yo, let's go. We got one other player to play the game. But that's actually one thing I've talked to and that I feel like I've had a little bit of input on is with being a Deca partner. Like, obviously we can't just, you know, give our feedback and just assume like everything we say is gospel and will get implemented. They have their own priorities. They're a company after all. But, you know, stuff like a new tutorial or a better new player experience is something that I've been heavily campaigning for ever since I joined the teams. Became a part of the Deca team. Like, they have a Discord and it's like you feel like you're part of the team whenever you become a content creator. So it's like I feel like a team member even though I just make content, you know. But the overall arching theme is the thing I really want for new players is instead of just the tutorial as it stands now, which is okay, the missions that are currently in place, you know, where it's like got the skill tree and everything like that.
Yeah.
It looks like a skill tree basically. Instead of just one of those for every season, have that, but for new players. So, you know, entering the pet yard, that gives you something like a common, you know, pet egg. And then once you hatch that common pet egg, you get some feed power reward, so forth, so on. So it basically gives you additional incentives to do the basic things throughout the game in order to progress, rather than, hey, you completed a tutorial. Go.
Yeah. I had a friend recently that started playing the game. I'm not sure why. He saw I was playing Realm. He decided to start. I see him open up the game, and the first thing I messaged him, I'm like, why? He says, oh, I've been just trying to find a new game to get. I said, no, don't. The new player experience is so much more generous than it used to be, but I think they can still do more because they are so much more generous with the fame so that you can actually get stuff to feed your pet. Because you remember back in the day, trying to get fame was like really, you had to run in the fame train to like get any feed power for your shitty uncommon pet.
Oh yeah,
originally.
I got White Star, and like half of my characters were 700 base fame, and I just fame trained and used like mundane, high accuracy, all that stuff.
Yeah, farming the tutorial for the accuracy.
Yeah, the turrets.
Yeah, they really cleaned up the process. I think the missions are really good. They actually do. They helped him a lot to learn the game properly and give him like proper progression. I think the order of dungeons could be changed a little bit because it's not completely black and white.
I think the missions in their current state does help, specifically geared towards new players. I think that system specifically geared towards new players would actually be better than a like reworked tutorial, because it would give the players the power to do what they want, but also kind of give them guidance and recommendations.
Also, new players really need to have more than one character slot, because having only one character slot is really fucking brutal for a new player. At least two. Like,
didn't they make a fame pack? I forgot what it is, but I think there's a fame pack you can get like a vault and a character slot for fame.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Well, he did.
I'm not positive, but I think there's something like that.
The thing is, he was a light blue star that played on like a level 7 wizard and died once, like 6 or 7 years ago. So it doesn't really count him as like a new player. So I'm sure there's some benefits that got missed on him.
Yeah, I'm almost certain though, if that is a situation that happens though, you can actually contact Deca support, and if there are new player things like that, they can actually set you up with those. I know Deca support's actually pretty good about things like that in particular. Speaking of which, Deca support's like super underrated. Like, I haven't seen many complaints about them over the past few years, because they genuinely do try to do like everything to resolve issues, and they're relatively timely about it. And then the only people that I've seen getting mad about it is
hackers.
Why did you ban my blah 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 year-old account whenever I was breaking your game's terms of service, but I gave you money?
It's every time it's like a thing on the Reddit, and they're like, now, I'm not gonna say I cheated, but I spent 10K, so I think you should let me stay.
Yeah, and I think that really kind of undermines the an argument that I see a lot of people make. It's like, we've seen a lot of high-profile spenders get banned for cheating, and obviously there's probably a few false positives in there, but there's definitely just a few high dollar spenders that have just gotten banned. And I think the rest of them just probably haven't been detected, because there is ways around detection. And unfortunately, the people who are coding those like hacked clients and everything like that are, I hate to admit it, incredibly skilled at what they do, because they make money off of it. And that's why they do it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Realm stock, man. Realm stock is a behemoth. If you could ever call something an RWT corporation in Realm, I mean, Realm stock from what I hear or what I've heard in the past, I think Realm stock has their own duping method that has never been leaked to anyone else. So I think, Rotmig Troller just like rides that wave and just keeps his shit going by just being really private about his method.
Go get your bread, I guess. But I in the meantime, will do everything I can to suggest ways to combat it.
100%.
Like, an AI bot that reads, spam messages and goes, hey, that one's obviously spam. I feel like AI would actually be really good at discerning what's spam for bots and could just mute them,
I have a better idea, actually. What if you make it so that nobody in the game can say the words Realm or Oryx? I think that might fix it.
Yeah, honestly, if you just ban the two of the most common and essential words to the game, like, they can't plug their websites, so therefore banning those two words is healthy for the game.
Yeah.
And, if you make it to where people don't actually know they're muted, then they'll say a bunch of stuff in chat, and, that no one will be able to respond because they didn't see the messages. That sounds like a great idea, actually.
That's a good idea. Yeah, let me write that one down.
Let me write that one down. That didn't happen. Totally not. Ever.
Do you remember the 1984 update from like a couple months ago?
No.
Oh, they banned like a ton of words. You couldn't say pot.
Oh, oh,
So
yeah, I know exactly. They banned so many words, and then when they
yeah,
rolled it back, you could literally just drop that word.
that one.
It
You don't
was
even have
like,
to say it. Everybody
yeah,
knows.
yeah, they literally just made it to where, yep, you can't say anything, and then it was like, yeah, too much is a bad thing, and we were like, yeah, we agree, too much is a bad thing, and then it went back to like basically nothing.
Look, I love Deca to death. They've done so much good for this game, and I want them to succeed. But man, the amount of like just L decisions they make sometimes. Do you remember the seasonal pack?
Oh, yeah.
That the golden. I love how people immediately. My first thought was the golden archer set, and I went on the Reddit because I wanted to, get some easy karma, and then somebody fucking beat me to it. Two people actually.
Yeah, I mean, that was unfathomable. And just to think, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just such a bad look. Like, Deca has ways they can monetize the game in a healthy way, and having so much just in your face so soon is a bad look for new players, I feel like. And once you get a whale, like, in order to get a whale, they have to enjoy the game first. But if you scare them off super fast, then that you don't get any benefit from it. And I really think that, yeah, it's just like having basically the entire Nexus shop be gold, like stuff that you purchase with real world money, and you can circumvent progression with it. Uh, it's just like super off putting. And I feel like people who spend money buy an item, die with said item that they bought with real money, are much more likely to quit the game than if they had just progressed normally and then would have spent, more money in the future on like, character slots and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. I think I like whenever there's character slot or vault chest unlockers that are like in a box because you have a chance to get a little bit more value. And even then, you still get like an extra 10% out of it. I like when they have, occasional fame boxes. I like when there's boxes for skins. I'm not going to lie. They're a little bit predatory, but it's skins, right? I think it's fine. When you have ST boxes for like Crystal Kunoichi shit and like 10A and stuff, the Stormcaller Bard set, I hate ST boxes. I think they're really bad for the game.
ST boxes are super predatory. I spun one recently because I got that deck of gold. I spun one recently because I wanted the wave, like the what was it, the wave crest Kensei set. I wanted the like mini skin from that because I really liked the little skin, and Kensei that just has bad skin, and that was one of the only ones I really liked. And I was like, okay, I'll spend a little money on this. I ended up getting the full ST set, but like not the skin. I was just like, dude, this sucks. I just wanted the skin, bro.
Did you really want to use the set either? Because if I recall, it's not a great set.
Well, so hear me out. That'll be a video coming out in the future. And other than the katana itself, it's actually the sheath is actually busted because it spawns little tornadoes, and little tornadoes basically just follow you around like a cranium and do a additional 1,000 armor piercing DPS if they're in range. And it's like 6 tiles.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I like when the meta changes. I like when they change items, so that's not just everybody running around with like Primal Arcana Vigor all the time, you know?
And that's why I'm still upset about Sea Shield getting nerfed.
Yeah, dude, I miss the old Sea Shield. I know Invulnerability is busted. It is broken. Don't get me wrong. But it was really fun, and can you mind people just having fun? It was a little
I think
absurd.
you could nerf I in tandem with Sea Shield. While invulnerable, I does not shoot. Or while invulnerable, I shoots, a reduced amount or something like that.
Just do like half damage or something. I don't know.
I don't know, like, but something like that. It's like it's a super high risk playstyle. I cannot tell you how many times I saw clips of people just dying using Sea Shield because they thought they had mana, or they ran out of mana, or they got quieted, or something like that. There's so much you have to be aware of and so much you have to think about. It's the like most high risk, high reward playstyle, and I think taking out unique playstyles like that from the game is not good because like there's only so many styles of play that you can have with Realm, and that one was a truly unique one.
Yeah, agreed. Because nowadays, like, for maximum DPS sets, you just have Sork, Spam Scepter, Wizard, same thing as usual. Just shoot from a fucking distance, and your warrior just like sit on top of things and just throw your sword at it. Like there really isn't. Sea Shield was definitely one of the only ways to play the game in a unique way from those three, which is just shoot the boss or press right click.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Well, that's why I've actually really been enjoying Kensei. Like, don't get me wrong, Kensei is a bitch to learn, but Kensei is legitimately just one of the most fun classes out of all of the classes in the game once you take the time to get over that a bunch of stupid deaths hump, because there's a bunch of stupid deaths that go into learning Kensei. But once you get over that and start to just play the class normally, other than Trickster, there's no class that has that quick movement option available, and Trickster is a support class. But Kensei, played to like maximum capability, is actually a really good DPS class. It's also one of the best survivability classes in the game once you get used to the ability, but it's just so hard to learn that people don't even take the time to. And I'm a big Kensei truther now that I've spent a good amount of time with it, but I'll be making. I have too much content planned entirely based around Kensei, but that's for another day.
No, I agree completely though. Kensei is actually Kensei is a class people underestimate. I do still think it's like kind of weak in the same way that most katana classes do feel weaker generally than the other classes. But I like it's very safe to rush on compared to something like Trickster or Warrior. Its MP efficiency on rushing is like really good. So for people who don't have like a fucking 100 M heal divine pet, you can actually rush a halls on a Kensei and have like 85 M heal as long as you don't get quieted, and that's always a concern. But
yeah, you get 3 dashes, right? And you think about it with a tier 6, that's 120. You get 6 dashes, which is basically a Trickster teleport, unless you're cracked and you can crank a long one out. But by the time you use that second full ability, and if you've used all 6 of your dashes, you'll probably have another one, and you can get to a pot room super easily within 9 dashes. It's it enables so many more playstyles, and that's why I actually like it so much, because every ability other than Trickster's can be broken down to point at the boss, shoot the boss, and aim your ability at the boss. Okay, good job. Or press spacebar and buff in a radius around you with slight differentiation based on the character. Yeah. Every character can be broken down into those 2 playstyles except for Kensei and Trickster.
Yeah, Trickster is already unique in itself, and Kensei kind of takes that a little bit further, especially being a katana class, because again, nobody fucking plays katana, which makes me sad because I'm a big katana enjoyer. Ninja is my highest fame class.
Katana enjoyers stand up.
On God, and katana enjoyers stand. I've met a lot of them, but they're very few and far in between. Especially
call
Ninja,
to action
but Ninja's...
right now. Call to action right now. If you're listening to this, like the podcast. If you're a katana enjoyer and you've made it this far, because you're heard. We hear you here, katana enjoyers.
If you're a katana enjoyer, go spam Akalos with buff Ninja's tiered ability, please.
Facts.
I can't stand that T7 and D circle are so fucking shit on Ninja. Holy fuck.
It's so, it's so easy to hit them too, their movement speed, it just, everything about it is so easy to hit,
Yeah, but it's okay because it pierces objects in the realm, I guess. Yay.
Looking at you, Archer.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of abilities that need a little bit of a buff, I think Archer needs more. I hate the fact that they took the quivers, the early game quivers. You remember when you used to keep a T2 quiver on you to slow? Yeah. And now you can't do that anymore because it's all paralyzed, so now the ability is actually just useless utility-wise. Nothing can be paralyzed anymore, so it feels like it's very pointless to have quivers that paralyze. I don't know. That's just my thing about it. Yeah. A Huntress is just better Archer right now.
Unless you get a Behemoth, but yeah.
Yeah, Behemoth Quiver is kind of nice. But still, if you get a T7 trap, the slow duration on it's fucking 10, 11 seconds. That's insane.
Yeah.
In such a big AoE.
And you don't even have to, it's not even a high risk. You have to aim it in the Corks. If you're thinking about the orbs, you just plop one down on either side and it's they'll run into it.
Yeah, it's such a big throw that bitch in their general direction. If you miss, they'll walk into it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's insane. What else? Ninja enjoyers. Go spam Akalos, please.
Don't actually. He gets too many PMs.
Oh yeah, poor guy. Okay, don't do that. Actually,
If you see Akalos in a Twitch chat, or if he's doing like the events, where he's doing the admin arenas, that's when you spam him.
yeah. Then you go ahead and spam him then, because he's on work hours for sure. So we're allowed
the
to.
admin arena he did with me was not on work hours. He just was like, yeah, I have fun with these.
I'm glad. I might out myself here because I'm kind of like a little bit of an opinionated person, but Wotan, I'm happier with Akalos because Wotan was a tool, in my opinion. That guy had some really bad takes on Reddit. Really awful takes.
Average Nigel experience. I have never seen... Okay, with Nigel, like, if you don't know who Nigel is, just go on Reddit. You'll figure it out real quick.
You'll see him. Guaranteed.
Nigel is the most either underrated, fantastic take of all time that ages super well, or just complete, utter garbage take that should never have been spoken. And it's so hard to distinguish which take is which. And I can't even remember them all because, he's been a part of the game for forever. And so I can't remember all the good and the bad, but it's just like, I've seen so much good come out of that human, and I've seen so much garbage come out of it as well. It's just so funny.
Speaking of Nigel, I actually haven't seen him around in a while. Like him, Bert, I haven't seen him around either, actually. I think I still have him friended on Discord.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's just on a different account.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe he just, I don't know. But he hasn't done much. Crinks, I don't think Crinks is around either.
Is Nigel finally experiencing some burnout after a decade?
Yeah, I mean, his motherfucker's been here for way too long. He's more well known than Brutus, but Brutus was also from the early days. I wasn't even around during Brutus.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about Montmig, right? Because we're kind of running our time a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm going fine though, so you're chilling.
What do you think about the events so far? Because I've seen a lot of speculation from just average players, especially Discord runners, that are just saying like, oh, anytime there's like an event, everybody just ignores it and waits for the next Halls event, and then they just bring a Halls event like midweek, and they're like, yeah, you can do Cult and Void again, and then it comes to like Nest and Shatters, and people again speculated, oh, they're not making a lot of money off Nest and Shatters, bring back the Halls event a third time.
So, well, I think this is the current Halls event is the second time. And
well, second time they brought it back, but third time in general they've had a Halls event.
This Montmeg?
Yes.
Oh, this the Halls event. Oh yeah. I thought you meant the Orcs 3 event. I was pretty sure they were going to bring it back for the last week, so that one I'm not too surprised by. But so with the first Halls event, they ran Orcs 3 on top of it, right? And so they have all the meta data and metrics on it. And basically, because Orcs 3 no runes was up, no one ran Halls. And then people were like, well, damn, I wanted to run Halls. So that's why they reopened it that second time, because no one felt like they got to do Halls. And so they essentially went off script and started changing the calendar, and it just started going off the rails from there.
Now we just have all of them, which I don't mind too much, but I kind of like it more when it's focused, because I can kind of like, I can be like, oh, I'm doing fungals this week. Okay, I guess I'll just kill myself, but I'll still do fungals. Whereas like when it's less focused, I don't really have anything that I want to put my attention on. But that's me personally.
And that's kind of interesting because whenever there's no events, it's like, wow, I don't know what to play. But then it's like whenever there's a bunch of events, it's like, oh, there's so many options. I don't know what to play. It's like, oh, yeah, it's a lose-lose situation. And then people will also complain about only being focused events because it's like, oh, so overused. It's the same thing over and over. It's just a new chest event every week. It's like, yeah, there's a reason they do it, because it works.
Yeah, they're probably running off of those statistics. They're trying to gather more just so they can more accurately be like, okay, how can we make more money this week?
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. And they did not intend on this Montmeg going as it did. They really wanted, this is something I think I can talk about. The main focus for this month of the Mad God was supposed to be enchantments, because this was something that was planned for a long time and had been hyped up. But because they butchered the release so much, the initial release with just like a few items having enchantments, the feedback was so bad that I don't even think people gave the current iteration of enchantments a chance. And so the fact that this Montmeg was supposed to be kind of curated around enchantments and just completely went off the rails because of that initial launch, kind of just sent them into a frenzy of, okay, how do we make this a good Motmeg still when the key feature we were supposed to release with it was not well received?
I can see why, because they kind of locked everything to the aspirant sets, and they're like, hey, do you want to enchant like a T15 Leviathan armor? Then you're going to have to go run like 50 fungals to be able to get the enchantment slot on the Leviathan. Like, I feel like the costs were just absurd for a lot of the items, and this mostly goes for like endgame players, but even like a Wormhide would cost like 450 dust to enchant, which is feels kind of absurd.
Yeah, and I can totally understand that, and it kind of is absurd. But I honestly think where enchantments really shine in their current state, the prices that high makes sense. They don't want power creep, and if you're going to get a completely, utterly broken set, then it should be expensive. But for something like an Exa HP, it is super cheap to enchant an Exa HP with plus 30 HP and turn that item into a 170 base HP item, which is a really, really good enchant, and it's also relatively cheap. And I think that's a pretty underrated aspect of the enchantment update, is that cheap enchantments are actually really affordable and really practical to use on characters that are being built.
It is really good for like mid game to like early game players, and I'm looking forward to when they have dust for the early and mid game like Godland dungeons, because I remember they said something like one of the tiers for dust will be Godland dungeons, but I think is really good for like the early and mid game players, because early and mid game players don't get shit. Like the game doesn't really start until you can do an MBC, you know?
Yeah, kind of like how the Forge has, the different like ores, I guess you could say. Like, in order to forge an in-game or enchant an in-game item, you'll need in-game dust. But if you want to, I don't know, enchant your leaf bow, then, I guess leaf bow is not a great example. If you want to enchant your tier 10 bow, then, you complete sprite worlds and abysses and wood labs, that makes sense.
I've seen some really cool enchants, by the way, among like the wand of what is it? Wand of Evocation, the T14 one. Having the like boomerang one is actually like really good. I really like that one, and I feel like it's like not too overpowered, but is definitely worth its cost. Or like the T14 Morningstar having like the more narrow cone for its enchantment. I really like stuff like that changes gameplay, but isn't just like fucking a +5 attack. Like that's boring.
And I think the aspirant items were good. They were a good idea, but they weren't well communicated, and the only reason that like I understand them is because of the community putting together like it was like an Imgur link, I think that's how you say it, with all of the enchantments, what they do, how the shots are actually changed and stuff like that. And that's the only reason I knew how I wanted to do my enchants the way I did, because of those links.
And I just said fuck it, we ball, and I threw Swiftblade on an entire Huntress set. It's kind of crazy, but little bug, if you attack too fast, you can't hear the shooting sound anymore, which kind of is still very jarring playing my Huntress, and I've gotten it to 10k base fame.
Yeah, something else, I'll let you know this, and you'll never unhear it. If you swap between a 3-shot and a 1-shot bow, the audio levels are actually different, because every projectile counts as a sound, and so the 3-shot bows are like 3 times louder than a single shot.
Oh, I mean, I know that because I switched between T-shot and T14.
Exactly. It's so jarring. It makes me so upset.
I'm surprised there are people that can't audibly hear that, but it might just be because like I played this game too fucking long to not hear it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, also having weapon sounds on, like a lot of people
I mean,
don't.
honestly, we're just psychopaths, honestly, because who the fuck keeps that shit on?
I always have game sound on. I don't know if you remember the streamer Forlorn. Half of his deaths were AFKing on stream. Ever since that day, I've left on, ever since I've seen those clips, I leave on sound, just so if I'm looked at the second monitor or if I'm alt-tabbed for some reason, if I hear like death noises or like, damage noises, I'm alt-tabbing back in, key over, like finger over the Nexus key, ready to go.
Well, if it's stuck on Forlorn, that sounds familiar, but I don't remember them.
He was a streamer a while ago, but I think was inactive. I think it's been like 3 or 4 years probably.
if it's someone that rose to prominence in content, I probably don't know them because I'm not gonna lie, I never really liked Spencer or
It
Mofros
was
or anyone.
it was during that era, but not directly in content. But it was during that era, so that would make sense.
Do they still exist, by the way?
They do still exist. They just haven't played Realm in a long time, I don't think.
That's fair. I mean, it's the same thing with Moth here. I mean, when was the last time Hayes played the game? We still play occasionally. I played a couple days ago with Yin, but he's been stuck on OSRS. Plus, he's applying for a new job, so he's busy.
Yeah, I'm in a similar spot with college. I already explained that though. It's just, and that's why I've started streaming as well. It's like, for the most part, if I want to play this game, it's either farming clips for videos or streaming, which at least is something. Like, it's not nothing. I'm not going to play this game and have it not go towards something more than just playing the game, because I really don't have time to just play for my own enjoyment unless it's with friends.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit of a loser. I was like playing a lot of Realm. Go to work, play Realm.
I mean, it's a good de-stressing game though, unless you die, obviously. But
then it's a stressing game.
But it's unlike Overwatch 2, which I got hooked into, and then I got hard hooked into that last semester. Like, it actually, Overwatch 2 single-handedly probably lowered my GPA by like half a point. But I got so hooked into that game, but I heard them not follow through with the PvE thing. I just quit. Like, I was fully invested, still fully, like, basically addicted to the game. But whenever they didn't follow through with the reason I started playing, which was that whole PvE mode,
the campaign, yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, that's why I played. That's why I wanted to get good at the game and why I got into it in the first place. Why would I continue playing? And not only that, they made the scraps, the little remnants of that mission or that mode, like, locked behind a paywall, and I was like, that's disgusting.
They were like, hey, here's some unfinished content. That'll be $45.
Hey, we are going to give you the content we promised without the talent trees, and we're going to give it to you slowly instead of all at once with the release of the game. And here's the kicker, the best part of the deal, you have to pay for it too. But that's one thing where it's like, I come back to Realm. Deca has a lot of flaws and they've made a lot of mistakes. They will admit that. They're not scared to admit that, and every player knows that they've had their rough patches as far as decisions. But when it comes to like long-term changes and things that they've committed to, I can't really recall anything where they've like promised it and just straight up haven't delivered. You know, like with the Exalt, like the Unity port, the game was super stale right before the Unity port. And then they moved it over. I was like, oh wow, that campaign and everything that we paid money for and was super pay to win because they're basically asking for money, they followed through. And like, if this game was still on like Adobe Flash Projector, that would it stopped getting supported. It literally stopped getting supported. The game would not exist if they hadn't done that.
Yeah, I think the game would have just fallen off a cliff if they didn't. Because even there still are like little Flash supporting like little programs that like people in the community have made, but the game wouldn't have lasted.
No,
it would have disappeared.
Yeah, it would have fallen off, and something else would have taken its place. And like,
if anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think something would have tried to capitalize on its demise, because there's always Realm clones or something like that popping up. Born Again is actually it's not a Realm clone at all. It's more of a hack and slash style that the creator of Trials of Titan has been putting a lot of time into, and I actually recently got to try out a closed alpha, which it looks really promising. It's a very different style of game. So I don't think it'll directly compete with Realm, but it'll be similar-ish.
Yeah, it's like in that space, And then I still need to try it. He DM'd me like a little bit ago because I DM'd him about being on the podcast, and I felt really bad because I ghosted him because we stopped doing episodes. And then he like came back and he's like, sorry, I got really busy. And I'm like, no, I got really busy too. So I guess it kind of worked out that
You know what?
Didn't end up
Okay.
falling through.
Juix is I consider myself like, obviously I don't like having an ego that much, but I hold myself to standards that I have an ego to, if that makes sense. I
Mm.
hold myself to those standards, so yeah, I'm proud of my standards. But he's a bigger man than me because the thing that caused him to PM me and essentially try out Born Again was in the public realm Discord. We were talking about Trials of Titan for some reason. I hadn't looked in the general chat for months. I don't know what spurred me on to do that, but I basically just said, yeah, I don't trust it because there has basically never been a completed product that has come from that developer or whatever. And then Juix just slides in and says, hey, I'm that developer and I'd love to let you try this out. And I was like, dude, I was just straight ripping into that. Not like super bad. Like I had my reasons behind what I was saying, obviously, and I stand by what I said, but it was not pretty. And he just met me with, I am here to make and complete this game, and I want you to try it because I'm proud of my work. And I was like, dude, that is insane. I have so much respect for the way that he handled that because like reading that about something that he put so much time into with Trials of Titan must have not been fun. And then just to handle it with that much class was like, this dude's either a complete pathological liar or, a very valid DMCA. DMCA from Realm scared him from finishing the project. So, like,
Yeah.
that's a very valid point. And so, like, there's more to the story that I didn't know entirely as well. And he kind of filled me in afterwards because I was like curious because I didn't know the full story, but I had my own preconceived notions. And he just handled it super well, and that's how I got access to the closed alpha.
Yeah, Jukes is an overall W. This is such a massive W of a person.
Yeah,
I remember when Trials of Titan is still coming up, and he just out of nowhere like hits up Yin, and he's like, "Hey, you want to try this game?" And they got to talking about like some stuff about like some game design type things that like Yin was interested in, and then like after that he was like, "Oh, do you want to try this game I'm developing?" And that's where the whole thing started with, and that's how I got a contact with Jukes in the first place. And I'm really happy that he's starting to get like more attention in the community because I think he really well deserves it. He is a great motivated developer, and he's only working on this with what himself and like one other person.
yeah. I'm pretty sure there's like one other. I think there's one other like designer developer type role, and then I feel like there's a third person who does something, but like not full time. So yeah,
Makes
it's
sense.
a super super small team.
Still waiting on BTN, by the way.
That thing, I've been in that Discord forever. And it's just like I just go occasionally look. It's like, yep, no new updates. Yep, no new
Yeah.
updates. I mean, maybe they're pulling a No Man's Sky, and it's like we put our heads down and we're going to work. But like, it's. I feel like from what I've heard, like through the back doors, that they're just running into the problem of like, what's it? Not content creep. It's not content creep. What's the word? It's like power creep, but for features. Feature creep?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what you're talking about.
Basically, they keep adding new features. They come up with an idea, they want to add it. They come up with an idea, they want to add it, so forth, so on. That they've gotten to a scale that they really, with their dev team, are struggling to actually flesh out.
Mhm.
That's completely speculative. Do not take that as gospel. That is through the grapevine what I've heard. I'm 100% certain there's a few lines of code in certain dungeons that it's like we either have to remove the entire dungeon or not touch that line of code that we don't know what it does, or the entire dungeon is unplayable. Like I firmly believe there's at least a couple dungeons in the game that would literally be unplayable if they removed like code that they literally just don't know what it does.
Like I feel like the Ocean Trench has something like that because, and this is like a really weird niche thing, but we were doing Fame Ocean Trenches in one of the Discords,
Mm-hmm.
and like Lost Halls is like map readable, Nest is map readable, Shatters has like set maps, but Ocean Trench still has that vibe that the old Wild Shadow dungeons, like that general
Yeah.
feel. Like it hasn't been updated at all, and it still feels like it gets generated in the weird Wild Shadow way, where it is just completely random, where there is no rhyme or
Yeah.
reason. besides
No,
the
I
room
totally know what
count.
you mean. The same with tombs. Tombs
Tombs
are
too.
sarks, the little hallways. There's like no way a sark can fit in a certain area, and then you just see this little hallway in the bottom left corner of a room, and then it just goes under another room. It's just like, how in the how what?
Yeah. The remnants of Wild Shadows work it's fucking crazy sometimes.
Apparently, tombs can also technically instantly activate as well.
Yeah, if you get the 5 T-Sarks, which nobody has ever taken a screenshot of, because I'm sure it's an insanely low rate, but I'd like to see it.
It is so astronomically rare that it has probably happened and not been recorded. It's probably happened like once or twice, ever.
Back then, that was the endgame dungeon too, you know? Like, when your friend would, like, pop off and come in, like, the realm chat, and you'd have that one guy in the guild that's just like, yeah, I've got tomb keys.
I've got tomb keys. Oh my god, that's that's a video I want to make so bad. Taking like my guildies, saying you can equip a common pet or an uncommon pet. We are bringing knights and a rogue to a tomb, and we're doing an old school tomb. If you if you activate Nut or you activate Geb early, you're getting flamed. You have to do some form of punishment. All player transparency has to be set back to 100%. Like, we are doing old school tombs. Do not activate the other bosses, or you're just like kicked.
You know, I'd love it if it's just no gear past like 2017, and it has to be like an NPE.
Oh,
because you know,
yeah,
that's
like
absurd.
Sky Splitter sword, mithril shield, abyssal armor, and
Yes.
extra HP or para HP. The goat set.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Real ones
we'll allow like the best in slot set for Huntress. You know, Coral Trap, Coral Bow, Ghost Silk.
Ghost Silk. Oh yeah,
Bro.
best in slot.
Best in slot was the fucking Davy armor that wasn't even white. It was like a cyan bag.
It still is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sea Silk was the meta. I remember, dude. I could talk about Old Realm for a whole another hour, but let's not go down that rabbit hole because we might never come out.
You know what? We'll cut it here. We'll do another episode for sure.
Okay.
Because we're gonna try and get. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's always awesome to talk to you here.
Yeah.
Congrats on partnered creator. That's pretty massive.
Yeah. Big other thing. I also got 1 million channel views recently, which was really cool. One other thing that I'm gonna plug before we wrap up, if you're still here, if you are looking to make content for Realm of the Mad God, on my personal Discord, I am removing the shadows and upscaling sprites from the game so that they're much easier to use in editing and content in general. So if you want to use them in your thumbnail or use them in a video, they don't look like trash, because if you take them from Realmeye, scale them up, they look like garbage. So I'm taking all that busy work out of it for you and providing them to you on my Discord, as well as I'm also trying to make just a bunch of other things to lower the barrier to entry for content creation, specifically for Realm. So if you're interested in making content for Realm at all, I would highly suggest checking it out. And, you know, you can sub to my YouTube if you want to.
Both will be linked in the description. Thank you so much for joining us. You can contact us at contact@decadebrief.com, which is our email. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.